So Gideon, the 100 men that were, and the 100 men that were with him came to the outside of the camp in the beginning of the middle watch. And they had but newly set the watch, and they blew the trumpets and brake the pitchers that were in their hands. And the 3 companies blew the trumpets, brake the pitchers, and held the lamps in their left hands and the trumpets in the right to blow withal. And they cried, "The sword of the Lord unto Gideon." The first watch was from 6 to 10 p.m. The middle watch was 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And the morning watch from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So they've just set the new watch. The retiring guards would still be probably milling around their tents. Trumpets blared, smoldering embers flash into flame, and then the yelling, a crescendo of these guys yelling, and that shook them up. There's speculation by some scholars that they were used to having a torch for every 1,000 men or something, but that's speculation. In any case, they stood every man in his place round about the camp, and all the host ran and cried and fled. You're dealing with 135,000, but they are superstitious, frightened people that also fight among themselves. If you know anything about the tribal kinds of environment they come from. The 300 blew the trumpets, and the Lord set every man's sword against his fellow and throughout all the hosts. And the host fled to Bethshittah in Zerath and the border of Abel-Meholah unto Tabbath. They were obviously shook up. In the confusion, the Midianites even are starting to kill each other. They quickly realized the only way to survive is to flee. And so they took off southeast on an old caravan route with the Israelite army pursuing them. And by the way, this may not ring familiar to you, but Abel-Meholah is the place where Elisha was living when Elijah called him to be his protege, if you remember your history of the northern kingdom. But there's an interesting, before we go on with the battle and what comes on, there's an interesting spiritual analogy here. If you're a Christian, you have the light of Christ in you, right? God would have that light come forth and shine to glorify him. But what prevents it is that it's buried in an earthen vessel. And the only way the light will shine is for that vessel to be broken. If you see someone that is bearing the light of Christ, it's probably on the heels of brokenness. Brokenness. You can say, gee, that's kind of a pun. Yes, I guess it is. But Paul indulges in that pun, if you will, in 2 Corinthians 4. In the interest of time, we won't get into it here, but you might put in your notes 2 Corinthians 4, verses 6 through 12. That you can't really serve him until you're broken. I taught the Bible for 25 years at Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa. I've studied the Bible since I was a teenager. But those of you that have known me through most of my ministry, I think understand our ministry changed in 1989 and 90 because we went through that dark valley. If you want to understand that valley, you should get any of our publications on that, but especially if you're serious about that, the third book of a trilogy called Faith in the Night Seasons, where God called you to intimacy by putting you through a dark valley, where it would seem that even he is not listening. The dark night of the soul, the dark night of the spirit, these terms are in the literature. Very little literature really written about this area. Lights in a vessel can't be released until the vessel is broken. Just a suggestion as an analogy that comes from this literal example, but let's move on.